Alright, now that we've placed the rat where he belongs, let's carry on with the Arknights main boss tier list. So we're going to be ranking the bosses that show up in the main story chapters, so no Pursuer, no Blood Knight or any of the event bosses. Keep in mind that this is my opinion and my opinion only. First off, we've got Crown Slayer, the very first boss we meet in the game. Now gameplay wise, Crown Slayer has kinda become a meme, due to how easy it is to cheese her. She never really posed a threat to anyone, even new players could steamroll her. And if you have a pusher specialist of any kind, then she kinda just becomes a joke. She even gets bullied in the story when she got yeeted by Project Red. So with all that in mind, Crown Slayer goes into the D tier. Next up W, everyone's favorite cockroach. W appears many times in the story, including being the final boss of Chapter 1. Similar to Crown Slayer, she is nowhere close to being a difficult boss and is mostly there to ease players into the game. Although unlike Crown Slayer, she's actually useful in the story. First she spared Adnachil's life in Chapter 1. Then she blew up Talulah and distracted the Sarkaz mercenaries in Chapter 8. But I failed to pull her during her banner, so I still have a grudge against her punchable face. D tier. Faust and the Phantom Crossbowmen. Faust is just cool. The way he can camouflage himself and use his Phantom Crossbowmen to shoot seemingly from any direction is just plain awesome. And the way his Phantom Crossbowmen are so loyal to him despite him being far younger than them speaks volumes about his character. His story with Mephisto is also extremely heartbreaking. Only for Faust though, nobody cares about the rat. He even sacrifices his own life to protect the people, which so many characters in Arknights are just so unwilling to do. I'm looking at you, Wei Yenwo. And Faust is supposed to be a villain. So he goes into the very respectable B tier. Next up, a personal favorite of mine, Skullshatterer. With regards to the gameplay, Stage 210 where Skullshatterer makes his appearance is what I'll call the first hurdle of Arknights. This is the stage where new players first get stuck and realize, maybe their only 2 brain cells are not going to be enough to clear it. 210 was the first stage one had to use the practice plans in order to try it over and over again. And over again I actually tried it. But due to my relatively low-leveled units at that time, and the smoothness of my brain, Skullshatterer would always curb stomp my team and send me back to the defeat screen. For being the very first actually difficult boss of Arknights, I would never forget Skullshatterer. Now for the story. Skullshatterer was the first character that made me doubt the black and white morality of Arknights. Before this point, everyone knew Reunion was evil and Rhodes Island and their allies were good. But Skullshatterer warped that perspective. We saw how hopeless and desperate the infected were. We felt the injustices put against him and his fellow infected. And we saw Rhodes Island's idealistic goals revealed to be just that, unachievable dreams of the ignorant. We saw the heart in Reunion. Skullshatterer's assault squad were more than willing to die for their leader, and for the future of the infected. While Rhodes Island simply spoke flowery words of peace and coexistence. For the first time ever, the solution to the plight of the infected became nuanced. And for all these things, Skullshatterer and Misha goes into the S tier. What am I supposed to say about the Sarkaz Centurion? Is this guy even considered a main boss? Is he here just to make farming devices in 3-4 slightly more difficult? I have no idea. F tier. Actually, F tier might be too low for him. And now time for a fan favorite, FrostNova. Personally, FrostNova was the boss I struggled the hardest with in the game. I didn't have Exujai at the time to cheese her with, so I was forced to stall and slowly whittle her health down. And I had to pray to RN Jesus that she doesn't black out tiles that my operators were deployed on, if not I just auto lose. And I think she was the first boss to have a second form after you killed her once, which was terrifying when you saw her revive for the first time. Made you go,
"Oh shit, here we go again."
Story-wise, she's interesting. FrostNova also played the role of making you question who is right and who is wrong. You watch her Yeti squad, which are the supposed enemies, essentially play the role of the heroes by protecting the infected against LGD and Chen Yenwu's elite forces. They all sacrificed themselves to save infected lives, which was supposed to be Rhode Island's job. Her confrontation with Dr. Amaya, Blaze and Greythroat was pretty cool too. We saw just how powerful she was, as even though her infection was killing her, she still utterly dominated Rhodes Island. But in the end, since she came after Skullshatterer, the impact of her story was not as great. Hot take here, if FrostNova wasn't a cute anime girl, the community would not hold her in such high regard. A tier. Patriot. Easy S tier. And if you're not convinced, just read this.
Patriot, we don't need to throw more lives away. This isn't like it was with Miss FrostNova. No matter who wins, this battle is playing right into the enemy's hands.
Wrong, Cortus. This is war. You want me to stop? Why should I stop? I fought far too many wars. As the Wendigo of Ursus, barbarians, flayers, ripped flesh from bone, vicious herds, we cleansed. Monsters, twisted, stinking limbs, eyes in the hundreds, fingers in the thousands. We slaughtered warriors, Victoria with steam armor, Casimiets with Silverlance Pegasi, Laterano with apostolic gun knights. All of them we defeated utterly. Rhodes Island, I advance.
And if you're still not convinced, then tell me you didn't shit your pants when this happened. Need I say more? Oh look, the rat has evolved into a dragon. C tier. Last but certainly not the least, we have the boss lady herself, Talulah. Also known as the Deathless Black Snake. I'm tempted to give Talulah an S tier rating purely because she single-handedly justified the existence of my E2 level 60 Nightingale. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Talulah's introduction in the story is as good as it gets. She shows up, flexes her arts a bit, and then leaves. She is portrayed as a powerful villain that Rhodes Island has to overcome. But further down the story, she is revealed to be mostly manipulated by Duke Kashchi of Ursus. Personally, I feel this kind of undermines the impact of Talulah as a character. But maybe that's just me. A tier. And that's that. Every main boss of Arknights ranked from S to F. If you disagree with my rankings, go ahead and leave a comment down below on why your opinions are wrong. See y'all in the next video.